Hey guys, today we're going to examine every reason why it is highly likely that Dabi and Hawks knew each other as children. Now, the other day I posted a rough version of this theory on Twitter, and a lot of you seem to really agree with it, so I figured it might be worth putting out an expanded version of this theory in video form. As we'll see throughout the manga, there is solid evidence to support this idea, but before I get into it, there will be spoilers for those of you who aren't fully caught up, so do watch at your own risk. But with that said, let's get into it. In chapter 266 of the manga, it was revealed that Dabi knows Hawks' legal name, which is Takami Keigo. Now this was a massive reveal because this name is top secret and has never been stated by any character in the series before. Even Hawks himself was visibly shocked. Now the reason this was a surprise is because from about the age of 6, Hawks was enrolled on a special government program that required him to abandon his legal name. The aim of this program was to create a special breed of hero that had very specific skills, and this is evidenced not just by how Hawks was able to infiltrate the League of Villains, but also by the fact that he was the fastest hero in history to break into the top 3. So the things that he was taught on this scheme enabled him to become a special hero with immense status at a young age, and that is going to be really important later on in this theory, so keep it in mind. Essentially what I'm saying is that the aim of this program is to create the perfect hero. And following on from this, Hawks himself reveals that he looked into the backgrounds of every member of the League of Villains, and the only ones he couldn't find information on were Dabi and Shigaraki. In Shigaraki's case, it's not that surprising as he's essentially been off the grid since he was a child, but in Dabi's case, what reason could there be? Is it possible that much like Hawks, Dabi was put in a situation that also required him to give up his legal name at a young age? Remember this guys, in chapter 31 of the manga, Endeavor stated that the only reason he was having children was to create a hero capable of surpassing All Might. That was the sole reason. Now his eldest son is Touya Todoroki, and much like Shoto, Toya possessed immense power, even more so than Endeavor himself. Now the trouble with Toya was that due to his weak body, he was unable to control the flames without hurting himself. This is what caused Endeavor to get impatient and he began having more and more children, with Shoto being the perfect creation that he had longed for. However, when we look at this clip, it's clear that when Shoto began his hero training, Toya was still very much part of the family as we see him playing football with the other siblings. This is in direct contrast to the common theory that I hear a lot, that Endeavor trained Toya so hard that he ran away, because once Shoto's quirk appeared, Endeavor dedicated himself to training Shoto specifically and he neglected the other children. So there's no real reason why Toya would run away if his dad wasn't training him that hard anymore. Natsuo even says during the Pro Hero arc that his father was almost like the perfect stranger, meaning that he wasn't very active in the lives of his other children. And he also says that what Endeavor did to Rei, Shoto and someone else was not something that he could forget. Now we already know what he did to Rei and Shoto, but this other person that he's referring to is likely Toya. And Endeavor admits in chapter 252 that he may as well have killed Toya himself, which implies that Endeavor took some action that indirectly led to his death. And this, my friends, is where it all begins to tie together. Endeavor neglected his other kids once Shoto manifested his power, right? But the fact remains that Toya was still part of the family. By default, whatever thing that occurred that turned Touya Todoroki into Dabi, it happened during the period of time in which Endeavor was dedicating himself to Shoto. What this means is that there was some kind of third party that supposedly killed Toya, and this is backed up by Endeavor's wording about how he may as well have killed him. Endeavor also says that while he never meant to neglect the other kids, he ended up blaming other people and dodging responsibility. And that line about dodging responsibility is so important. The only reason he had these kids was to create a new number 1 hero that could surpass All Might. And we already know that Toya had the best firepower of anyone. Given that this was Endeavor's goal, right, creating this new hero, the only reason he put all his attention on Shoto was because he had a nice hybrid quirk and therefore had the best chance. Dedicating all his time to training this child, he didn't have any time to train Toya. However, given how much Endeavor rates Toya's ability, it would be pointless to let that innate power go to waste. Therefore, Endeavor dodged his responsibility by enrolling Toya on the same special program that Hawks was on. In this way, Toya would still have the chance to ascend the ranks of Hero Society, and it wouldn't require any personal effort from Endeavor himself. Toya would act as a sort of insurance policy in case Shoto didn't succeed. And because Endeavor was the number 2 hero at the time, it's possible that he was actually approached to enroll one of his children on this program, and perhaps he chose to put Toya in it due to his potential whilst deciding to train Shoto himself. If this is the case, it would explain why Hawks couldn't find any information on Dabi, because his legal name would have been erased once he joined the program. It would also explain why Endeavor feels he has an indirect responsibility for Toya's death at the hands of the government. And to support this point, there is something else we should bear in mind. In chapter 266, Dabi attacks Hawks with his flames, even though Twice is caught in the fire. Hawks then instinctively saves Twice from the fire due to his extensive hero training. Dabi then says that he never worried about Twice because he knows that a hero must always be ready to save a life. Who taught him that? How did Dabi know that Hawks' training would instinctively kick in to save Twice in the situation? If Dabi had had that training himself, then it would make beyond perfect sense. And the way he says this, like he knows a hero must always be ready to save a life, it's almost like someone told him that exact phrase. When we remember that Touya Todoroki had a weak body that wasn't suited to his powerful quirk, and the fact that he might not have joined this program of his own free will, it becomes really clear why Endeavor feels responsible for his death. What I think likely happened is that Toya was pushed too far during this stressful hero training until one day he had an accident that resulted in his supposed death. Remember that his alias of Dabi literally translates to cremation, so it's possible that he chose this name on purpose because essentially that's what happened to him. He was cremated in some way. How he survived this specifically is a question for another time because we don't exactly know what this accident was. But if the Public Safety Commission did truly believe that he died as a child, this would explain why they don't suspect Dabi of actually being Toya, at least as far as we know. If everything I just mentioned is the case, then we can clearly see why Shoto wouldn't remember his big brother despite coming face to face with him during the forest training camp. They barely spent any time together as children before Toya was shipped off to government hero school. Whilst he was there, he was then believed to have died, but in reality he was just horribly scarred. Nobody with knowledge of Toya's death would have any reason to believe that he survived. And crucially, just because Dabi has a similar quirk, it doesn't necessarily mean that they would automatically think it's the same guy. Especially given that with all these scars, he must look so different. And also his hair is black now, so that's one thing. Bringing it back to the overarching topic of this video, why do I think Dabi and Hawks knew each other as children? Well, in addition to Dabi knowing Hawks' top secret government name, we see that when Hawks is asking Dabi who he is, the manga flashes back to Hawks' childhood, where we see Hawks enrolling onto this course. As he holds an Endeavor toy, he says that he's ready to become a hero like the man who saved him. From this, we learn that not only was Hawks saved by Endeavor as a child, but that this specific memory is what appears to Hawks as he's thinking about who Dabi could be. This means that there's some kind of connection between Dabi and his time during the hero course. Hawks then asks this question again, and his facial expression when he does this is very bold. It's someone who's not messing around. However, once Dabi replies and tells Hawks who he is, his demeanor completely changes to one of complete shock. He literally he can't believe what he's just heard. And whilst we as an audience do not see what Dabi says to him, based on Hawks' reaction, it's clear that the name does mean something to him. So given that Hawks' name is a government secret, but Dabi knew it anyway, and given that Dabi's real name is unknown to even Shigaraki, yet Hawks seems to be familiar with it, there's undoubtedly history between these two. Toya was the eldest Todoroki sibling, which makes his current age about 24, as his sister is 23. Meanwhile, Hawks' canon age is 23. Bearing that in mind, it's possible that this special government program began with a handful of students of which Toya and Keigo were part of. Remember that this training is stated to be super hard, so it's unlikely that the government would put all their faith in just one child, when it's possible that after a few years of intense training, a child could just give up and say they don't want to do it anymore. So it makes sense to have a select group of students, potentially maybe 2 to 5. Additionally, because these kids are so young, it'd be stupid to deprive these young children of social contact with people their own age, especially because top heroes are generally popular and sociable people. So what I'm thinking is that it's likely that these two became friends, and could you imagine how excited he would have been to meet the son of the person that he idolizes the most? On this government training program, they would have learnt that a hero must always be ready to save a life, which Dabi and Hawks are both well aware of in the present day. But it is possible that this terrible experience to artificially manufacture the perfect hero is what caused Toya to become disillusioned with hero society. Dabi says that he believes there's no such thing as a true hero in this world, and that he is the manifestation of Stain's ideology. What that potentially means is that this experience on this hero course is what created this belief, because essentially they're manufacturing fake heroes. Like Hawks as he is now, he is a great hero, but the fact is that he's almost been manufactured from a young age to be what he is. And that is why Dabi never trusted him from the start. Not only does he know who he is, but he also thinks of people like Hawks as the embodiment of everything Stain hated. So to recap, we know that Dabi's quirk literally burns his flesh. In addition to that, we know that young Touya Todoroki as a child, his quirk wasn't really suited to his body and it couldn't handle the firepower. This means that the training he went through on this government hero course could have resulted in a fake death of sorts. In that way, Hawks would have believed that his friend Toya was dead the whole time, and so would have no reason to suspect that Dabi was actually that person. In addition, Toya would have no existing records due to his participation in this program. What that means is that when Hawks looked into his backstory and when Gran Torino looked into his backstory, neither of them could find any details. It would also explain why they seemed to know each other's names and why Endeavor felt indirect guilt at Toya's death, because essentially he didn't cause the death, but he kind of put the things in motion that allowed it to happen. Finally, it provides an additional reason why Shoto doesn't remember much of his older brother. But with that said, that's my theory on the matter. It's possible that maybe Dabi was enrolled on the scheme after Hawks was, as we know that Hawks was on it from around the age of 6, whereas in this clip here, I think Toya is probably around 11 or 12 years old. However, in saying that, it's possible that Toya was on this secret program at the time, and potentially maybe he was allowed to go home on weekends or something. There's a few small details like that which may need clarification, and if you guys think you have the answers, then please by all means let me know in the comment section below. Or on the other hand, if you think it's not possible at all, be sure to let me know that as well. Thanks for watching and peace out.